Alright, everybody, it's my review of Interview with the Vampire. And if I had one word to describe this movie, it would definitely be boring. This movie bored the hell out of me. And, well, I shouldn't say the whole movie. I mean, the last half hour of this movie is good, but the fact of the matter is, I had to sit through 90 minutes of boring shit to get to it. Alright? And let me start out. The first thing I wrote about this movie, with the notes I had during this movie, is that Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt as vampires and all those different situations, I could see so much fan fiction being written about this movie. And I'm not gonna look it up because no, not my type of thing. But I could just see so much about it. And pretty much, okay, Tom Cruise has been this vampire for so long, and he's pretty much a dick to everybody, which at times is funny, and at other times you want to punch him in the face. Maybe that's just because it's Tom Cruise, but I don't know. And then Brad Pitt is this, well, he's basically just a whiny little bitch for most of the movie. He kind of annoyed me. And that was part of the problem is that, I get the idea that Brad Pitt is hesitant of doing all these different things, but you don't need to, you know, bury it into our heads the entire time. The first, like, half an hour, 35 minutes of this movie is pretty much a Brad Pitt saying, I don't want to eat. I don't want to have human blood. No, that's not right. I'll stay with animals. And Tom Cruise is saying, you're gonna have to do it eventually. And, that can be cut down. That can be like 10 minutes. And, it wouldn't take anything away from the movie. And I would say Tom Cruise's acting in this movie is a little suspect. I mean, I know he's not exactly the greatest actor in the world, but he's just overplaying this role so much. And I think that's the biggest problem with this movie. The biggest problem I have with this movie is that there's too much talking. There's too much dialogue. I mean, I know with a vampire movie, I'm kind of expecting a little bit more action, and dialogue isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for this movie, it is, and it's too much. I don't care. At a certain point, I stop caring. All right. Although this movie did have one thing that really kept me going, and that was Cecilia, Kirsten Dunst, the child vampire. That's something that hasn't been done before in a vampire movie. That's something I want to see. I wanted to see more of Kirsten Dunst in this movie because, well, first of all, she was amazing in this movie, by far the best performance. And then the idea of having this child, uh, vampire that can never age, she's stuck as a 10-year-old girl. I mean, that just sounds like it'd be an amazing movie on its own, but instead it's its own little subplot. One thing I did notice throughout this movie, I guess you can easily distinguish vampires in the real world because all male vampires have like super long hair. Or am I the only one that caught that? I don't know. And yeah, the biggest problem I have with this movie, obviously with too much dialogue, and it's not so much that it was too much, but they never get to the point. They always drag it out for so long. All right, and like I said, I lost interest, and it didn't help that the movie had to keep stopping to buffer. I guess that was a sign from Netflix to stop watching this movie because I'm going to hate it. And another thing, it pissed me off too. This movie, it said it was set in present day and in the past, so I'm expecting, half the movie to be in the past, half in the present. No, it's all about the past. Alright, I want to see what it's like for a vampire to be living in present day. I want to see how that happens, and they just skim over it. It pissed me off. And I don't know. One good thing though is there is a lot of build up. There is it does keep you on the edge of your seat because you're not sure what's going to happen when something exciting does happen. In the last half hour is actually good with Brad Pitt getting revenge on everybody and going through the next couple centuries running into Lestat again or Tom Cruise. One thing I don't get at the end, how did Lestat or Tom Cruise, how did he know how to drive a car? That made no sense. I mean, Tom Cruise is a vampire who's never been around modern technology. He shouldn't know how to drive a car. I don't know. I don't know. I would give this like a mad rating, but the child vampire thing really, in the last half hour, really helped me out. give it about a 6 out of 10. If you like vampires, check it out. Otherwise, stay away.